but we're going to be, oh, there's Keith. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is, this is really an informal presentation. And those of you who don't know me, my name is Erin Thompson, and I'm the coordinator for the Innovation Center at Leeward Community College. And I'm joined today with 3 fabulous colleagues, and I'm going to have them go ahead and introduce themselves. We can start with you, Sarita, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Aloha, everyone. My name is Sarita Washington, and this makes my 1-year anniversary as part of the Leeward Ohana. Thank you. I am an early college counselor, and I serve in the counseling unit here at the college.
Very good. Thanks, Sarita. And then we also have Warren. Warren, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Warren Kwana. I teach business here. I'm also the business division chair. And I've been using Zoom for quite some time. Actually, I was using Blackboard Collaborate when we had that for my synchronous class sessions. And then we got rid of that. So I've been on Zoom for about 1.5 years. I do a class of about 25 people. So we'll talk about breakout rooms today.
Very good. Thanks, Warren. Thanks for joining us today. I know you're super busy, so thank you. And then last but not least, we probably have the one person who actually does this for his living. So we have Brent. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Brent Hirata from our Educational Media Center. And within the last month, I've been doing a lot of Zoom. And in between time with Zoom, I've discovered 2 neat little tricks. So I was really excited when Erin mentioned this session today, because I really wanted to share these fun tricks with you, and maybe you could use them in your instruction. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for being here today with us. We all hope that you're staying safe and isolated as much as possible. But it's great to see all of you and to kind of reconnect as we can. So basically what we're going to be doing today is just the 4 of us are users of Zoom. And I'm going to do the disclaimer that I'm probably the least experienced out of the 4, but we're going to do our best just to share some tips and tricks with you folks. I'll be giving like just a basic overview, and then Sarita will be, oh, and if you all can, I'm going to go ahead and, if you guys can mute your mics just for now, just during the presentation, that then. Okay, so, oh, Dottie, I'm sorry, I muted you. Do you want to unmute yourself? Did you want to say something?
Sorry, yeah. Can everybody turn their microphones up so you can be heard? It's pouring outside by my house, and it's like I have to either get some headsets, or you guys can turn your volume up on your speakers. Thanks.
Very good. Everyone can hear me okay for now? Everyone's okay? All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is, again, I'm just going to do like a general overview. Sarita's going to go into some security tips for you. Warren's going to go over breakout rooms and how to use that for student engagement or even in meetings. And then Brent will have a couple cool tips and tricks that he just recently discovered and wanted to share. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can go ahead, put in the chat. We'll probably try to address them as they come up, or we'll just do them all at the end of the session. And, but again, this is really just very informal. And at the end of the session, we'll also have times for you folks to share any tips that you might have discovered in the past 2 weeks that we've been doing this as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen with you all, just so that you'll be able to see the toolbar. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to do is just mention to you folks that right now we are videotaping the session for other faculty and staff members. We have a record number 39 people with us here today. So thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. Okay, so the first thing, right now you should be able to see my screen and what I see on my screen. And let's see, so we have the toolbar that's down here at the bottom. I'm just gonna go through this real quickly because most of you who have been using this probably have a pretty good idea. But as you can see, this is our mute microphone. If you click on it, you can mute it. But once it's muted, if you wanna keep it muted and you just wanna temporarily unmute it, you can just hold down your space bar. So and then by holding down my space bar, now I'm unmuted and I can talk. And then I'm gonna lift up my hand from the space bar. So that's just a quick way to just kind of mute and unmute yourself. When we have the video portion over here, if you click on the video, you can look at video settings. And in my video settings, it has all the different settings that you might want for sharing the screen, the chat, backgrounds. But what I really like is this keyboard shortcuts. If you're a person who likes to do the Alt or the Control type of functions, it has a whole list of real quick shortcuts. So I look at these sometimes. Other things that I think some of you have probably already discovered are the virtual backgrounds. I see a lot of virtual backgrounds over there. For myself, I didn't get a chance to put up, my computer for some reason needs to operate with a green screen. I have a green piece of cloth, but I didn't have a chance to put it up today. So if you notice, if I click on something, then my skin is the same color as my wall, so I kind of disappear. So rather than doing that, I just have my back wall. But again, if you have that capability, if you have a green screen, or if your computer allows you to, then you can definitely use one of the virtual backgrounds. I've also uploaded, like this is a picture my student took. This is The Office, one of my favorite sitcoms. So, you know, I had downloaded that. And I think in our Leeward bulletin, Kathleen had just given us a couple links to other places where you can download other virtual backgrounds. So, and just have fun with that. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to go over security because Sarita will go over that later. Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay, we have the participants. So here's our participant list. Again, you can mute people. You can put like check marks. You can do like some of the nonverbal cues here. Coffee break, applause, those types of things. That's all over here. As a host, you can mute or unmute to everybody as you see fit. You can also invite new people to your session, or you can do like an Alt-I, that's one of the shortcuts, or Command-I for a Mac. And that will allow you to, if you do like it for me, I have a Alt-I, it brings up my invitation. And normally the people that are here are like those that have been in meetings with you most recently, or it'll go by alphabetical order. And then you can go on email and use Gmail, and then you can email them the invitation if you like. So that's just some basic participant information, okay? What I'm gonna also show is up here where you see this is the share bar. If you just hover by it, you're gonna see where you can do a new share. So I could click on this and do another share to another website. I can pause my share, or what I'm also gonna show you is what's called annotating. So, oh, and there's a question. So from Lucille, hi Lucille. If you mute, can the participants unmute themselves? So that's a really good question. And yes, you can set it up so that your participants can unmute themselves. So for instance, so Lucille, if you can, go ahead, press the space bar temporarily and just say hi to everybody. Hopefully.
Hello.
Oh, yay. Okay, good. See, it worked. Thank God. Okay. So that's just a way that you can, I do allow my participants to actually themselves, but you can also set it up where the participants they enter in already muted. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't, because sometimes or you can wait right until the session starts to let everybody in. Sarita will go over the waiting rooms and those features. But again, most of it's just personal preference. So just learn the features and then you'll know what feels best for all of you. As you notice too, as people because we do have the waiting room feature open, sometimes you'll see in this upper right-hand corner, it'll say someone's waiting, and it'll have a bar for me to click on to admit them, or say 3 people are waiting all at one time, I can admit them all. So I'm leaving that feature on. I'm not locking out our meeting yet, because if people come in late, then you'll be able to see me admit people as they show up, okay? All right, so let's get back to the annotating. Thanks, Lucille, for the question. If you go up here to the share part, then you'll see annotate. So if you click on annotate, what I've allowed is for everyone to go ahead and draw. So go ahead and we can draw. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually clear all drawings right now. Okay, so you can go ahead and, so we're gonna have Lucille as our model, and I'm gonna put a flower in her hair, right? So you can just click on that. You can erase. So if I click on the erase, I can erase different things as the host. okay? So you can draw, you can use a stamp. Let's show Lucille some love. Don't put a mustache on Lucille, people. This is a friendly, friendly place that we have here, a safe zone, okay? We can, right, nice flower, very good. So you guys get the idea. You can even do some text, right? So you can put text there, right? And so what's helpful is when you folks are sharing your PowerPoints, you can maybe say you have some bullet points and you say, who has a question or who agrees with this statement, A, B, or C, and you can have them put like stamps by what they agree, or they can draw arrows, right? So you can have them participate in that way, okay? To get the, hi Adrienne, she wrote in, how do you get the toolbar? To get the toolbar, you basically just kind of hover above where, I think it'll say where you can share, where I'm sharing the screen, and it should appear for you. Is that correct? Is that what you folks are seeing?
Yes, you have to click view options. So when you click
Oh,
view
that's right.
options at the top of the screen, so it says you are viewing Erin Thompson's screen, then there's a view options and then the caret. When you click on the caret, then you'll see annotate. Then that's when the annotate toolbar will pop up for you to allow you to also annotate on the screen.
That's great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sarita, for sharing that. I appreciate that. Okay. So then what you can also do now, if you don't want your students to be able to annotate, there's a setting where you can say that no one can annotate, and that's fine. You can also clear just my drawings. I'm just going to clear the stuff that I did, or we can clear the people, what the viewers did, or we can clear all of them. And then we have Sarita all back to normal again. Okay. So that's just a real quick tool that you can kind of play around with. With that said, that's pretty much, let's see, I don't know if there's much else. If people have questions about the chat, again, you can do private chats, you can do chats to everybody, but again, you as the host can set that. So you can close that off so that your students don't get to privately chat with each other as well. So, okay, are there any questions? Can a participant erase the annotations of other participants? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's either the host can clear it all, or I don't think participants can clear others. But, well, let's go ahead, let's try it, let's practice. Okay, so some people, let's go ahead and just put some stamps or just kind of, so I have some stuff. Can someone try and erase this beautiful angel butterfly, I'm gonna call it.
No, I can't erase anything.
You can't erase anything? Okay, so, but as the host, then I can erase it, you know? Okay, so that's a great question. Thank you, Emily, good question. We're all learning together. Okay, all right, so that is our annotation feature. And so I'm gonna turn it over now to Sarita, who's gonna, I'm gonna stop my share. Okay, and we're gonna go and turn it over to Sarita, who's gonna talk a little bit more about security.
Oops.
Oh, let me unmute myself. Hi. So aloha, everyone. I am certainly no Zoom expert, but I have been utilizing Zoom prior to COVID-19 to host web conferences and web meetings and to be able to communicate with folks back on the mainland. And so there were some tips and tricks that came along, and it's interesting because this is information that I shared with the counseling unit right when they had all that talk about Zoom bombing and folks entering into the classroom unexpectedly. So there are a couple of things that you can do to kind of check to make sure that you are, you know, as secure as you can be. One of the things you might want to do is just make sure that you have a Zoom educational account. A lot of us signed up for Zoom prior to buying the license because it was free. And so that's something that I did for use for personal use. And so, and also for academic advising for students, actually, we do offer Zoom advising prior to COVID-19 as an option for some students who perhaps couldn't make it to campus, or if we didn't go to their high school for academic advising. And so I was going to keep my Zoom basic account when the invitation first came out to get a Zoom educational account. I was kind of thinking, well, do I really want to give someone else control of my Zoom account? But what I found is that there are more benefits to having a UH license than not. And part of it is, if you are an instructor, if you're going to have meetings where you want to be able to annotate, where you want to be able to utilize the breakout rooms, then those are those additional features that most folks have to pay for. And so that's included in your educational license. So how do you know if you have an educational license or a basic account? Let me show you utilizing my own account. And so I'm just going to kind of open up Zoom right here, and you can see you would click on my account, and right next to my account it'll say if it's licensed or if it's basic. So here's personal information right here. Account type is licensed. So that means that I went through the link that was provided to us, and maybe when other folks are speaking, I'll put the link in the chat just as a reminder for folks who would like to sign up for the licensed account. Initially, UH kind of made it I know that they had some limitations in terms of how many licenses they could give out and that kind of thing. I was placed on a waiting list when I initially applied and asked for the account, but then it was granted and I was able to get the full access. So that's why if you have been trying to use some of these features and you haven't been able to get into it, I would encourage you to check that first. Just kind of ask yourself, take a look, do you have the licensed account? Because the difference is you do get access to the breakout rooms, you get access to some of the other features and the security updates. So ITS sends out security updates about Zoom in our email, which are often forwarded to us anyway, but if you have the UH account, it comes to you automatically. And then you also get this automatic password embedded in your invitation. So you don't have to create an additional password in your invitation when you're inviting folks to your meetings. It's already embedded in. And so let me show you what that looks like too. When you kind of, let's see if I can close this out and then exit from here to show you what I'm talking about. All right, here we go. So if you go here, I should probably clear my annotations too. Hold on, let's see, get those out of the way. All right, so if you're setting up, so you can see here that this personal meeting ID is really long. That's because the password is embedded right here in this ID. And again, with the UH licensed account, I was able to create this personal link that's a little bit shorter. It has my name. Again, some folks were wondering, how do you create that? You can customize it when you have the licensed account. If you have the basic account, you can't, this feature isn't available to customize, but it also then it would allow me to set up a password for a meeting as well. So this is, again, for instant meetings. So think of like your personal meeting ID as you welcoming someone into your home, this being your address. This is why you don't want to publish it everywhere for everybody to kind of get into. In addition, it's why you're going to want to set up some of the other features that we talked about. So make sure you're utilizing the waiting room feature and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you why I was doing that. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the waiting room feature, I like the fact that there's a ding dong doorbell sound when it lets me know that someone's in a waiting room. As an academic advisor, what I would do is perhaps send a Zoom invitation to a student for an advising session, or they may book an advising session with the link embedded in the response, letting them know, your appointment is with Ms. Sarita at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Here's the link to utilize. So a lot of times students are overeager. Let's say our appointment's at 9 o'clock in the morning. The student might click the link to start the meeting at 8:45. which is great. I love the fact that you're early, but I could still be reaching for my tea. I could still be getting settled in, making sure I have the right light. I could still be doing a whole bunch of things, shifting around. And so I want the meeting to start when I'm prepared, when I'm the most prepared to be able to be effective in the meeting. And so for that reason, the waiting room has actually been really helpful in addition to it being a security feature, because then you can permit and allow folks into the meeting who are only supposed to be in the meeting. Often, if you have back-to-back meetings, remember your personal meeting ID is again like your address. So imagine that you already have folks over at the house, and then someone comes and knocks on the door and then just walks in the middle of what you're doing. So that's when you don't have the waiting room feature enabled, that allows for folks to just kind of jump in whenever they'd like to. So that's why it's another kind of helpful feature, I think. And I do see, Erin, are you tracking the questions? Because I didn't take a look to see. Should I pause here to see if I can answer something before
It
going
looks
on?
like Brent has been doing a good job in terms of kind of monitoring. There's a lot of questions about how to get the Zoom account.
Yeah.
So Brent had given the questions and the URL to go in and do that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that, and I appreciate it. So what are some other things that we should know? You actually can lock a meeting. So you might want to consider, if you're worried about security protocol, or if you're worried about other folks jumping in the meeting or in the class session, once you know, so if you have like a synchronous class that meets at 3 o'clock and you have a late policy, you don't want students joining after 3:20 because that means that they, would have missed a large chunk of the material, or 3:30, whatever it is. You can actually choose to lock the meeting, and this is how to get to that setting. I took a screenshot here, and then that would not permit other folks to enter after a certain time. So some professors have been utilizing that as a way to kind of keep their meetings more secure as well. And so there are a lot of things you can play with within the settings. When I'm working with someone about new technology, oftentimes, I'll say, hey, click it, you're not gonna break it. Let's play around with it. It'll be okay. If you don't understand, we can probably research and find out what it is. But a lot of times what I learn best just by kind of testing it out to see how it works. And if you ever want to test out some of these settings, you can always start a meeting with just yourself, by yourself. If you go into Zoom and type in host a meeting now with video on, then it's just you with your video in the meeting by yourself. But that lets you check out things like your lighting, which I'll be talking about in just a little bit. When you do join meetings, a couple of other tips: consider joining the meeting with your video and mic off, which gives you a chance to kind of, again, present your best self so that you're ready for folks to see you and especially to hear you, and so that it's not disruptive. And then also you can control within the settings, and I screenshotted here, how you want your participants to enter. So if you don't want your students coming in like in the middle of a sentence, into the class, then you can start them with the mic off so that you can then unmute them later on, but at least everybody's kind of starting focused on you and listening to you. Another thing to consider might be your appearance. So I don't have any special YouTube light shining on me right now. This is just sunlight from the window. I just angled my laptop in a way so that the light would be shining on my face so that you could see me. If I shift it to my lap, it changes. As you can see, you can't really see me as effectively when the light is behind you. So just thinking about the positioning of your devices and where you're sitting can actually be helpful. And you can use Zoom to quote unquote touch up your appearance. And it's kind of like applying a filter. The way to get to that, I've actually posted it here for you to be able to see. So it's under video settings, and then you can click on touch up my appearance, which is the third option down here. And it just applies like a little bit of a filter and makes you look a little softer and maybe more HD. I don't know if it can do too much to, if you wake up first thing in the morning, how you look, but I've utilized that as well. And enabling HD, so making sure that my participants can see me in the best possible light as I'm presenting. Those kinds of things have been helpful. If you have additional questions, I would love to be able to answer those as we move forward, but I do want to turn the next part of the session over to my colleagues. Erin?
Thank you so much, Sarita. Thank you so much, Sarita. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to Warren, and Warren's going to talk a little bit about breakout rooms. Thank you, Sarita.
Okay, so breakout rooms is a feature that you can find in Zoom. You can find it on, I'm going to share my screen for a little bit here. And I pulled up some of the information on Zoom's website here. Let me find it. So if you look at their plan website here, and I do recommend also getting the UH site license. So just to kind of tag on to that, the UH site license, I posted the link in the chat. But if you go to, let me see if I can back out of here. You go to this website here, hawaii.edu/site license/Zoom. It talks about all the different UH video conferencing options, and then you can actually go to the Zoom one, and then on that page you'll find the link to the form to actually submit the request. So, was it this one? Where was it? I had it right here. Oh, here, request account. So you just kind of click on request account, and it'll take you to that page. Right, and you kind of sit, and my faculty have been telling me they get back to you within a day, so it's pretty quick. So if you look at the pricing and the plans here, the free one, yeah.
Just want to say, Emily had a question about if she had like a premium Zoom account like a couple years ago, if she would have to sign up for the site license. Do you folks know, or should we just have her just submit the question to you?
I don't know how they're handling that, but what I would recommend is create a separate one for your work one. And if you bought the other one for work, then maybe, I'm not sure, but you can figure, because I'm not really sure how UH is going to handle that kind of stuff.
Thanks, right. Maybe you can just email Emily, email the UH.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
So actually it's in the chat. So the link is in the chat. So if you look at the free the free account here, it does have breakout rooms, but you do have to make sure that it is enabled in your features here. So it's a little bit, you have to check. I think by default it might or might not be. I can't remember offhand. But if you go into settings and then you go into your advanced, you will see breakout rooms here. So make sure that this is turned on, right? You will need the settings to this to be turned on if you want to have a breakout room. And then you'll see a breakout room icon on the bottom in your toolbar. But what I want to do first is I want to show a video about breakout rooms, and then I will talk a little bit about how I use them in my class and how to facilitate that discussion. It's actually a video by Zoom. It's really short. It gets to the point. So this is kind of how I show videos in class. So sometimes I will show a quick video and then have students discuss it, just the same way you would in your in-person class, but do it in an online class. So I'm going to switch my share here. All right, so you should see my different browser open now. And we'll watch a short 3-minute video. This probably does a better job of explaining it in a faster time than I would.
Hey everyone, Fair from here. On this brief video, we're going to show you how you can leverage our breakout room feature to take a large meeting or virtual classroom and split it up into smaller groups or sessions. You'll see that I have already enabled the breakout room feature, which you can find in your settings along the bottom. And that breakout room button will actually be right here. This is a button that only your hosts or co-hosts will be able to see. And right now we don't have a co-host in the session. If I manage my participants, I can hover over Catherine, for example, to make her a co-host. So she'll see this button now as well. When we're ready to split the group into smaller sessions, I can easily click this button to get a pop-up window asking me how many rooms I'd like to assign out and how many participants per room. For this example, it's recommending, since there are 6 people, we can split it up into 2 rooms. I can do this automatically or manually. So if we click on the automatic button, it'll generate those breakout rooms for us. Certainly if there's anyone I want to swap out, maybe I want to move Michael to the other room, I can exchange him for a different participant. Once I'm ready to open all rooms, I'll click this open all rooms button, and our participants will be able to join the sessions that we've created for them. So we'll slowly see those people join. One thing that's really important to note is that as a host or a co-host, you can actually hop between the different rooms to talk to the participants. You can see here, I have the join button. Now everybody's left to go to the rooms. I can broadcast a message to everybody and say, wrapping up in 1 minute. And this will broadcast the message. And then I can close the rooms, which gives them a 1-minute timer to rejoin our session. We'll give everybody a second to rejoin, and I'll show you 1 or 2 additional features with breakout rooms. There we go. We can kind of see everybody kind of popping back in. Now everybody's rejoined the main session. You'll see that I have the opportunity to reopen these rooms again, which is really great. If you have a very long session or very long virtual class, you can split into these virtual smaller groups as often as you'd like. And the additional options here will allow you to automatically close breakout rooms after a specified amount of time. You can also change the countdown timer to be 30 seconds or 2 minutes if you like. I'll show you a setting where you can also pre-assign folks to be in your breakout room before the classroom starts. You'll want to navigate over to the class that's already been created in your Zoom portal. Under the Meetings tab, you can find your meeting. Scrolling all the way to the bottom, you'll see if we open this to re-edit it, I have the opportunity to pre-assign a breakout room here. And I can create the rooms and upload a CSV with all of my participants in advance so that their names are already populated in the room when I start the session. That's basically how you can run breakout rooms. We hope you found this video helpful. If you have any additional questions, please visit us at support.zoom.us. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.
Okay, so just a short, let me switch my share here, video on Zoom. So how do I use this in my classes? Let's switch it to this one. Okay, so breakout rooms are very good for your sessions where you have very long class sessions. So if you want to do a synchronous class session and you're talking for an hour, it's going to be very monotonous. It's going to be very tiring. Just as your students will be sitting in your classroom, you don't want them to be sitting at home where they turn their camera off, they doing something else, but kind of keep them engaged and keep them active. Breakout rooms is a good way to do it. I would recommend if you have like an hour class, at least do 1 breakout room. And then if not, you can even do 2 breakout rooms in shorter intervals where you can have them come in, back to the main group, share out some of the stuff that they discuss, and then move back into another breakout room to discuss something else. So it really does keep them engaged. A lot of my students in my larger class, they don't like to show their video when they're in the main class like this. So I see, you know, everyone here is, most people are showing their face, but a lot of my students, they'll show their face in the beginning and they'll realize half the people aren't, and then they'll turn their cameras off. But when they go into the breakout rooms, I tell them to turn their camera on and to turn their mic on, because the conversations that happen in a breakout room are very much like those that happen in a classroom. And they're much more willing to talk. They connect a lot better in their rooms, and it makes it for a great conversation. So a lot of the times I'll have a topic. Maybe I'll show a video and ask them to discuss it and share their perspectives or share their views. When I'm doing a discussion point, I like to put my questions on a PowerPoint. So when I do my class, I like to put things on a PowerPoint here because it allows them to read as well as listen while I'm talking about it. And it keeps me on track also. So I kind of give them something to share. So this class is a co-op class or your internship kind of class where students are at their workplace, and we talked a lot about these different types of workplace scenarios. So this topic today was on social capital and social connectedness in the workplace and how that makes you very effective. It was followed up by watching a video. So I usually have a short video for them to watch. It's a TED Talk, and they kind of share in their experiences there. I do highly encourage them to share other stuff, share personal things, introduce themselves. I personally like to use random groups. I always tell them it's going to be random. So, you know, you might get somebody different. And the idea is that they can build connections with different people in the class over the entire semester. As we meet multiple class periods, they get a chance to meet with different people. So it works really, really well. They like it. I always assign them a task. So something to share back to the group. So I ask them to discuss and appoint a reporter, and they'll share back to the main group. One thing I like to do when they share back is I like to take notes. So I take notes as they share back within the group so that everyone has these notes, and it just kind of helps people keep track of what was said before. Another thing for breakout rooms that you kind of want to do is you want to check in on them. So like the video said, you can actually jump into different breakout rooms throughout the class. So I will always say, I'm going to come into each room. I usually give them a few minutes to get settled, and I try to go to each room. I have probably about 5 rooms with about 3 to 4 people in each room. And I check in on them and ask them how things are going and try and facilitate their discussion. So if they're kind of off track or they're not getting at what they're supposed to get at, I'll kind of pull them back on track and facilitate that discussion there. So I'll jump in and out of each room, and I kind of tell them, okay, you're my first breakout room, so it's going to be about 15 more minutes before I get back. You know, you're my last breakout room, so we're coming back right now. Kind of give them a heads up on their time. And sometimes these, you know, they'll have a lot of questions for you within the breakout room that they won't be willing to ask to the big class. So it's a very good way to keep your students engaged. What else about it? Anything else?
May I add to that
So
a
I
little
like,
bit?
yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I had the opportunity to use a breakout room a little bit earlier. I was doing a guest lecture for a colleague on ADHD. And so while I had the questions posted here, as you can see within a slide, I also made sure that I posted the questions in a chat, or I would have shared this question maybe in advance, because when they go to the breakout room, they can't see the screen that they were just looking at. So if it's a multi-part question, I usually try to find a way that they'll have access to the question while they're in their breakouts, just to be able to share with each other. And then, as Warren mentioned, you know, asking somebody to be the note taker, and then the other person or that person to be the one to report back. If you have a large class and you've paired everybody up, there may not be time for everyone to share, but if someone has, you know, the responsibility to report back and to say a little bit about what you've talked about, that can be helpful as well.
Thank you. And one more thing about the recording I wanted to mention. So if you're recording this session like you're recording now, and I have to do this by trial and error, if you jump to breakout rooms, the recording will follow you as the host to each breakout room you go to. So I know Blackboard Collaborate allowed you to record each breakout room, and Brent can correct me if I'm wrong. I never really used that recording in there, but I know with Zoom, unless you can change the setting, it follows me. So if I go into breakout room 1, it'll record me in breakout room 1 with everybody else. And then I go to breakout room 2, it'll record me as I move to breakout room 2. So you can at least record some of that conversation that you had in there. It's a great way to check for participation, check who's paying attention. And if you're gonna do a synchronous class, I highly recommend you break up the talking. And if I talk for 15 minutes, I feel like I'm talking too much. So even like this is a lot of talking. All right, that's about all I have for breakout rooms. I hope you guys can utilize it in your work or in your classes or in any way. Oops.
You're muted. There you go, Erin.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. So there is a question in the chat from Ryan. I think they're thinking about using this for their Aspire, their new student business orientation sessions. That so basically saying if you folks are the host and then something happens with the connection to the host and people are in breakout rooms, will that impact the rooms? Like everybody be like thrown out of it, or will they remain connected? And as a host, you just have to sign back in.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure too.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that I think if you're the host and you're logged out, I think everybody goes out, but that's just my guess. Brent, would you happen to know?
Oh, sorry, I was responding to a chat. So were you asking if the host leaves the Zoom session, would it close out all the breakout rooms, right?
Or if the host, if the connection for the host, if it cuts out, will it impact the individual rooms? I'm thinking it would, but
I don't know. That's why I didn't respond when I saw it earlier. Because I do know that like the host can leave and the session will still run. So when you go to close a session, it will say, do you want to close the session for everyone or do you want to leave?
right.
And I've left a session before as the host and let like some of the other people still have a conversation. So I'm not sure if the host necessarily leaves if that closes out. I'm not sure.
Oh. If so I have a question for you, Brent. If as a host, if you've left the meeting and you let the meeting run, did you make somebody else the host before you left, or you just left as a host?
I just left as the host. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. And I left the meeting.
You're on your own,
And
people.
as far as I know, it worked. Nobody,
Okay.
you know, yeah, they're just like, well, they actually, in that example, they asked me to leave. It was like a meeting of 5 of us. And then, you know, the person said, oh, so-and-so, I'd like to continue to speak with you, and Brent, you can leave. So then I hit leave meeting, and it says, do you want to leave the meeting or quit the meeting for everyone, or do you want to just leave? And I said, leave. And I guess it was okay. But I don't, but in that example, we were not doing breakout rooms. So that's why I don't know, you know, what goes on with the breakout rooms. And I also don't know if, in that example, I was not recording. So I don't know if what happens if I was recording, if the recording would stop when I left.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brent.
There was a question about can people record in a breakout room? And I did a little quick research on it, and it looks like if the meeting is being recorded to a computer, the recording will include whatever breakout room the person who's recording participates in. So if the host is not in a breakout room, then it won't. But multiple people can record locally if the host allows it. So there's like a setting that the host can designate, and the host could possibly designate one person in each breakout room to record locally and then share that file with the host after the meeting. And the article says this way the host can have a record of what transpired in each room. So this is according to Harvard, an article that they published about how to utilize Zoom in the classroom. So I'll be happy to share that with the group as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarita. And I guess that answers Kalea's question. As a facilitator, can you go back later and hear the breakout group discussion? So again, as the host, wherever you go, if you're recording, that's the recording's going to follow you. So you'll be able to see that. But then as the host, you can also tell the breakout rooms, like Sarita suggested, have a designated person record it, and then you can view it for later. So thanks, Sarita, for your quick research on that. Appreciate it.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to add too is sometimes if a student loses a connection and they were in a breakout room, when they come back, they won't go back to that breakout room. They'll end up in the main session. So keep an eye out on the main session, because sometimes the internet will cut out and then they'll log back in, and then you have to reassign them to where they were. And that's happened kind of often. So just be careful that if you see somebody in the main session, and you can see by your participants on the bottom menu, you see usually like one is in there, and you can check and move them to a different room. So just be aware of that. If they get cut out, they will not go back to their breakout room.
Great point. Thank you, Warren. All right, we're going to move on to Brent to wow us with all his new knowledge. Thanks, Brent.
Okay. Well, I just have two, well, one's really fast and one's a little bit more involved, but they're both neat that I discovered. One of them was the ability to play music for your audience. So this is my first slide. You know, the situation might come about either oftentimes folks join your session and you have a few minutes before you want to start. So they're just kind of lounging around on the first slide there, your title slide or what have you. But with this technique, you can also be playing music from your computer to kind of set the stage for your class for that session. It doesn't compete with the visual, it's just sharing audio. And so what I had done, for example, was I had used a streaming service for myself that I listened to music on. I had played that in the background, and then I kind of, to use a term, piped it through to my Zoom session. But you could probably do a similar thing with YouTube. Another idea would be like if you wanted to have like a free write activity, you could have some time where they could be thinking about a prompt that you've projected onto your slide, but you could play music that would encourage them to be thinking. So let me go ahead and do a demonstration of that for you. So in this case, I have some Hawaiian music that I pulled up just off of YouTube, and let me share it with you. So you should all be hearing it shortly. Thumbs up if you can hear it. So what was that experience like? Does anybody want to turn on their microphone and tell me what did you see on the screen? And then what was your experience like hearing that music play? Was it high quality, low quality?
High quality.
It was good quality.
High quality.
But it was loud.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. But it was much louder than your voice.
Right. That's a good point. So the technique that I used was I go to share screen, and then under shared screen, under the advanced tab, there's two tabs there, basic and advanced. And then it would be under the advanced tab, and it's specifically called music or computer sound only. And what makes it a little better quality and sometimes a little bit louder volume, it takes the sound directly from your computer and it pushes it out to your participants. So you're not hearing the sound come out through my laptop and then in through my microphone into the session. It's going directly there. So you've improved the quality just a little bit more. And that also allows you to play songs from your computer or from a YouTube or a streaming service. And you can again set the stage. Now, what kind of visual did you see on the screen while I was doing that?
I saw the grid view where I saw all of your faces.
Right, because the alternative to that would have been if I was sharing a slide and then I was doing the sound from computer, you would see like the YouTube, the YouTube interface, because that was actually a YouTube video. You would see the YouTube visual and then the sound. So you could do it that way, but then the visual in this case didn't really apply to what I was trying to do or to portray. So the visual might have been more of a distraction. You might have seen some advertisements. You might have seen some other video playlists on the side there, your standard YouTube visual interface. But by using this technique, you just get the sound. And again, it doesn't have to be YouTube. It could be an audio streaming service. It could be a sound off your computer if you've got some music on your computer. Or it doesn't have to be music like this. If you're doing a class on ukulele or guitar or piano, it could be samples of that nature as well. So that was my first.
Brent, we got a couple questions.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So if you could just walk through the steps again real quick.
Sure.
So a good question. If you play music, will it also play in the waiting room?
No, I wish that it wouldn't. I actually Googled that too, because that would be super awesome if it would play in the waiting room, but it doesn't yet do that, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, so for the interface part, let me just show you. It's under shared screen, but let me show it to you with the second technique here. The second technique I'm going to show you is a document camera. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a document camera to show you the first technique. So hold tight for me. So you can use your iOS device to be a document camera. So is this weird? It's kind of weird, huh? Let me move this off to the side. Okay, maybe that won't work. In any case, under the shared screen, oops, sorry. Under the share, sorry, let's go ahead, Zoom share. Under the share screen, a menu will pop up. There are two tabs, Basic and Advanced. And under the Advanced, there's an option called Music or Computer Sound. And then you click on Share, and then that will do that.
We can test it out to see if maybe you can, I set up my Zoom controls so that you could see my screen.
Okay, sure.
So let's see if that will work. If I try to share my screen to see if you can see my Zoom controls. Hopefully it will work. Let me do that now. Okay, this may look weird. Okay, so you can see my screen here?
Yep.
All right, and so then you said if we click on the but I don't get the caret. I just get the
no,
wait,
you
go
can do
to
the regular.
advanced. Okay, advanced. And so can you see that it says advanced?
No, I can't see.
I can only see your desktop.
Okay, so you
There you
can you see the black icons here that I'm hovering over, or no?
Not yet.
Just the
No.
desktop. Okay. So
Well,
yeah, this is one of the things where you want to be able to show the panel, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This is one of those times where it's not working. I apologize.
no problem. So let me jump to my second topic here, and that is the using the iPhone or the iPad for the document camera. So same thing. I'll go to share screen, and then you won't be able to see it, unfortunately, but under basic to the right, there's a setting for iPhone, iPad, and then I'll share that. And then what you can do is you can go to your device here, and now you're seeing my phone, right? And then I'll switch over to the camera view, and I can show you a demonstration. So can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I could show you, like if I had a tripod for my device, it would be much more stable. But I could be showing you, how to make a cup of tea. So I'll be like, or, you could be doing a science demonstration or any type of demonstration here. And I could be showing you how to, this is how you do it. I could be talking it through with you, and then I could jump back to my slides, and I could continue my presentation. Or if I wanted to jump back to the demo, I could go back to the iPad view, and I'm using my phone again as my camera. So if I had a little bit better tripod, it might be a little bit more stable, but I thought that was pretty cool. And another use of that feature is with an iPad. So let me show you this technique. So because you can share your phone, you can also share your iPad. And in this case, I have an iPad with a stylus, so you can do things like this. So I previously loaded like a word search here. And so I could be looking for words, and I could be walking you through an activity, and you guys can follow along. Or if I was doing an equation or something, I could be writing it here on my iPad, and it would be transmitted through. So you could easily and quickly do what they call board work, but you could be doing it, relatively easily, just like on a piece of paper, except showing it to your students or participants through Zoom. And so to do that, these are the requirements here. Let me share these with you. Oops. It just needs to be iOS 11 or newer. So I think the latest one is iOS 12, but iOS 11 or newer, and then this version of the Zoom mobile app. Then you have to set up the computer or your phone or tablet under settings, and you want to set it for screen recording. And after you do that one-time setup, then your device has that feature enabled, and then it's just a matter of it's a similar process if you're going to do AirPlay through your iOS device. You just pull down the sharing menu and you select like Brent Zoom session, and then it will connect wirelessly.
This is awesome, Brent. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Let's see if there are some questions in the chat. Let's see. Are you able to demo? So can you demo it with an Android or actually?
So I've never seen instructions for it for Android. However, as a tangent of this, there's another like option where you could connect it up with your USB cable to your laptop. And if the laptop recognizes it, then it might work for Android.
I have a security question.
Sure.
If I were to take control of someone's screen, are there security issues?
Yeah. So that's why I personally wouldn't recommend doing that. Like if you're prompted in a session that says allow remote control from so-and-so, I wouldn't say yes. And I wouldn't recommend that you ask to control students' computers either. That's my opinion. The only example when that might work professionally is in the case of a help desk when you're calling the help desk and you're really stuck. Usually like the help desk, they have a different technology, but they will ask for permission to do that. And it's a protocol that they'll usually email you a key and you have to accept first. But it is a very important thing to not allow remote control of your computer or request that from someone else. It's a big deal. So for this, Zoom does have that feature, but I wouldn't normally be using it.
No.
If I were to take control of someone's screen, would I be susceptible to their viruses that might be inherited in their devices?
I don't think you would, because you're taking control of their machine, but the liability is that basically you're controlling their machine. Who wants to be blamed, right, if anything happens to their machine? So I would usually not recommend doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And same thing with screen sharing. Just to let you know, I just took a quick screenshot since I couldn't share my Zoom panel with you. Under the advanced sharing options next to the share caret, notice that there are multiple options here. How many participants can share at once, who can share, and who can start sharing. So you can lock things down when it's only you. So only one participant at a time, only the host can share, and who can start sharing, only you as the host. If you lock those things down, then other folks can't get in there and start sharing stuff that you don't want them to share. And it's right under the share screen option on your panel. We can't hear you, Erin. You're muted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any last questions? Again, we want to be respectful of your time. All right.
I see Emily's asking, and she actually used
yeah, Emily has a question. Yes, you got to unmute yourself though.
I've noticed that what you can share on iPad is different than what I can share on the laptop. On the laptop, I can immediately share like a YouTube video or something, but I've noticed I can't do that on the iPad. How can I add that? Because when it says share, it gives you only certain things that you can share. Is there a way to add to that so that it's seamless like it is on a laptop?
Are you referring to the Zoom app experience on the mobile iOS? Because there are certain things, if you're a participant viewing or participating in a Zoom session through the Zoom app, that you can't do through the Zoom app on a desktop. But like, I'm not sure if you're asking about that or if you're asking about what I demonstrated with the document camera. That's two different things.
What I'm asking about is, for example, with YouTube, I can just go on my laptop and I can just share the YouTube video directly. But I've noticed I can't do that on my iPad. Is there a way to do that on the iPad? Because when I hit on my iPad, it's not, it's an app on the iPad, of course. But when you hit share content, it says screen, Google Drive, it doesn't, it's not like it is on the laptop. Is there a way to like show a video seamlessly, like add YouTube on there, or is it just you have to do it directly through your screen?
Well, I mean, from my personal experience, this was like a week and a half ago, and Zoom's been changing, Week and a half ago, the Zoom app for iOS didn't have the full functionality that a desktop version of the Zoom app had. So it's possible that you can't do it on a mobile device. So if you're a facilitator, if you're teaching a class using Zoom, I would probably still recommend doing it through a laptop or a desktop interface rather than trying to do it from your mobile device. For students, it might be okay because they're not typically sharing their screen and doing that kind of a thing.
I will say what I tend to do is I actually tend to have two screens, one from my laptop and one from my iPad. And I actually write things on my iPad, and they can see that happening. And then I still have my face on there, which keeps them engaged.
Great. That's great. Thanks, Emily. And I just wanted to share one more thing. I'm just going to share my screen. I know that we're just about finished, but so I'm going to share my screen real quickly to kind of show you folks that when you do share, I wonder if I can show, when you do share your screen, and like say you're going to be doing a video, so say this was a video from YouTube, make sure that you click this down here, the optimize screen sharing for video, click and share. By doing that, it helps to eliminate the choppiness that you might sometimes get. So make sure that you always try to do that when you're sharing your videos. Okay. All right.
All right, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Lucille.
So I've been using Google Meeting, and I'm trying to transition over to Zoom. But the thing I like about Google Meeting is some of my students, they don't have access to a laptop all the time or any other device. So what happens is that with Google Meeting, they can use a phone because there's a phone number to it. Is there something like that with Zoom? Because I'm a little concerned for the students that won't have access to that.
Yeah, when you have the licensed Zoom account, then you get access to the phone numbers. But when you have the basic account, it used to be that they did give you access to phone numbers with the basic account, but I guess because the whole country started getting on Zoom, then they had to kind of limit it. And so the licensed people have access to those phone numbers. And what I've done is when I send out an invitation for advising, let's say, for example, I'll send the link to Zoom, but I'll also select one number. They give you like a list of if you're near San Jose, if you're near this and that. That can be too overwhelming for students and people to read in an invitation. If you've ever gotten a Zoom invitation that had the link and then all of these phone numbers, you're like, which number to call? So I select one number from the list and say, alternatively, you can call this number to join our session. I've used that even for phone sessions. So knowing that the student didn't have access to, let's say, Zoom for web conferencing, but wanted to talk with me on the phone, I don't want to give my personal cell phone number out to all the students. And so I've used the Zoom call-in feature so that a student could call me on the Zoom, but it's like we're having a phone conversation, and that keeps me from having to give out that information. So just select, my advice is to select one number from the list.
Thank you so much, Sarita. Are there any last questions? All right. If not, we just want to say thank you, everybody. What we'll do is we have recorded this session and we'll be posting it probably. I don't know if you folks have gotten the word. There's a website under the Ulu Tree that is basically a place where we can come together. You can post things about what's happening on campus, find out about the mentors, find out what other workshops are coming up. So we'll probably be posting this video somewhere in the ULU branches on that website. I'll make an announcement so you folks can refer back to it. Again, thank you to my co-hosts, Sarita Washington, Warren Quano, and also for Brent Hirata, and for all of you for making time today. Take care, be safe. Ahui ho. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care,
It's nice to
everybody.
meet all of you. Thank you
Nice
so
to
much.
see you.